right from my PG preparation days during my intensive in my UG college. Right from that day, like I have been following you. You are like a role model for me, and you have been guiding me throughout my preparation and throughout my MD days also. This is something like when I choose Marrow because that time nobody knew what is Marrow, and so at that time also I did not listen to anyone. So that time I took up because I believed in it. From the beginning, I used to watch the Marrow videos, of course. In total, I can say I've seen your videos, I think, some 15 times. In my third year, when I got time, so that time I again subscribed for the Marrow Plan C. And I used to see your videos every time. So you have been inspirational for me. So from you, actually, I've learned that okay, I can also do something different and make my own path.
Hello and welcome everyone to another top session. But this is a slightly different opposition from the one that we have been actually doing for so many reasons, and we'll see reasons one by one. We have with us our own student, Amia. Amia is somebody who is very familiar in Marrow circles and somebody who is very familiar to most of the teachers in Marrow. Because the first time that I heard about Amia was when Amia actually cracked JIPMET entrance exam in 2018 November-December session with rank 1, and he had given an interview then. So I have not interviewed him, but in that particular interview, he has talked in depth about how he has used the app, and the time the app was very new, and he was a Plan C student, and how he managed to get rank 1. And that was a huge revelation in itself because it was a huge booster, or rather, I would say, a huge source of inspiration, especially for students from Odisha, where he actually studied. He's a student from Berhampur Medical College in Odisha. And many of the students have actually contacted us after that, talking about his success story, which was a source of huge inspiration. And then after, we used to be on touch through Facebook as well as through WhatsApp. And he joined the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research at Pondicherry. And he was doing his MD, and I was actually thinking that he's just into final year. And what I was thinking was absolutely true. He was in his final year. His final year MD exams started on December 6th. He did his first paper on 6th, and then Sunday went and wrote the INA exam. And then after, again wrote his 3 theory papers. After a gap, wrote his practical paper. And finally, we have come to know that he has scored rank 2 in clinical hematology for this INA SS session. And what is more and more interesting is the fact that he has not attended any particular hematology classes. He's not aware of any hematologist per se. He has not read any standard hematology textbook. This is all as per him. Okay, so we trust him. So he says he's not studied any standard hematology textbook, Williams or Windrose or whatever. He has just studied basic medicine syllabus, very thorough with his medicine lessons, and has cracked the INIS exam first time. And like most of the other INISET toppers whom we have talked with, he's also from 2012 batch MBBS. So they are all basically from the same batch, which shows that studying again and again really doesn't make much sense because these guys just come and they just take the seat and go. So Amia has again surprised everyone because Amia's mode of preparation for MBBS exam itself, or the PG entrance exam itself, was a huge talking point those times. Because in contrast to most of the people who used to make notes and then study the notes and then revise the notes, etc. So just like how Amia's MBBS PG entrance preparation was a huge surprise for most of the guys then, because he did not have the standard format preparation, making notes and studying the notes and revising and all that. So I think this time around also he'll be having a very unique mode of preparation because he doesn't actually fit into the box. He's that kind of a person. So without wasting time, let's just go to him and let's start discussing. So once again, welcome Amia to the show, and a huge congrats. And more than I think congrats, I think you surprised everybody. Right in the middle of your theory exam, you have managed to crack AIIMS, and that too clinical hematology, which is a very, very tough subject to crack because although the number of people competing are few, they're all very serious competitors. So great, and once again, welcome to the show, Amia.
Thank you so much, sir. But before we could go on, let me just tell sir, this is a great honor for me, because right from my PG preparation days during my intensive in my UG college, right from that day, like I have been following you. You are like a role model for me, and you have been guiding me throughout my preparation and throughout my MD days also. Like any other student who is preparing for PG or who is doing internal medicine PG, like everyone who is to meet you someday or interact with you in any kind of platform. So I'm really feeling privileged today to be able to interact with you in this platform. Thank you so much, sir. You have been great inspiration for me.
that's again awesome, because hematology is a subject which is like so much connected to my system in so many ways. I mean, I really don't know how to explain that, because every time I think I talk something in hematology, it's basically comes from within inside. It's not like I am reading so much of hematology and coming and discussing. I have really great contacts with some of the hematologists, and the hematologist who actually takes classes for us in Marrow, Kishore sir, is actually more than a brother to me. There are so many connects like that I have with this subject. And it is a subject that has fascinated me, not just fascinated me, kept on like asked. I really don't know whether it fits into the box of a proper medical subject. It is not like a proper medical subject. Nobody can actually study that also that way, because there is no subject where, okay, one single disease, you can have 10 people treating in 10 different ways, 10 people looking at it and saying 10 different things, each of the patient presenting in 10 different fashions. Like, means I'm saying CKD has so many things in common. But AML is not like that. One AML is so different from the next AML is so different from the next one. So it's a very, very fascinating kind of a subject, which actually requires you to be on your toes all the time. So when you say that this has been my classes in hematology, I feel very thankful to God, and I think, delighted, because more than anything else, I think this is that kind of a subject. No, you cannot read and master this subject. It has to basically be through some help from somewhere. And I think most of the classes that I have taken, I've got that help from somewhere. That is probably the reason why hematology classes have actually come out well. So anyway, just kind of for people who are not actually familiar with AMIA, we have discussed this upfront as well. That AMIA actually comes from a state, Orissa. Orissa is not a state that has performed traditionally well for the PG entrance exams. If you actually see the number of people who have cracked a PG entrance exam itself from the eastern part of the country itself is less. And from there, Orissa again is less. And from there, again, Berhampur, Sambalpur is even less. So when you look at it that way, now a person like AMIA coming to the forefront, now coming to JIPMER, and then now going to AIIMS is a huge source of inspiration for the so many number of students who are studying at Cuttack and Berhampur and Sambalpur. It's like a huge source of inspiration, because I think it's like they can now be feeling confident, yes, that we can actually move ahead and achieve something. So just take me through the MBBS days in Orissa and how it is different, and what you felt like there is a huge change in your life from a normal medical college at Berhampur to a central like in JIPMER. Language different, culture different, pattern of medicine different. Just take us through that. After clearing JIPMER with rank 1, what was it for the next 6 months for you?
Yes, sir. Sir, after I got the JIPMER rank 1 in 2018, the November-December session, and after that I was very excited because I'm coming from a state college and going to the Central Institute, JIPMER Pondicherry. I was very excited to go there, but when I actually landed up there, I felt that there is so much lacuna in my like UG career and in my internship also, because in our state college the exposure is very less. In terms of the patients, in terms of the procedures and all. So my my experience was very less. And on the other hand, the language issue, that was one of the, I can say, the biggest problem when I landed up in JIPMER. So initial few months it was really tough and really difficult, but I always had the belief in me that I can do it. So even if I had so many difficulties, I just persisted with my hard work, and I just started learning things from there. And gradually, after I think around 7 to 8 months, I became familiar with that. And after that, in the second year, third year, I learned a lot, and I enjoyed a lot in staying in JIPMER and learning in JIPMER. In our in JIPMER, medicine department is really good. All the consultants, all the faculties are very good, and we get to see a lot of cases. Because for us the super specialty postings are very less, and because of the COVID also we didn't get much of super specialty exposure, but that time all the cases used to come to the medicine, so there is great exposure for me to see a lot of cases and to do a lot of procedures, and learning various aspects of the medicine, not only the core medicine, then the critical care part, then the lab part, radiological aspects. So all those things, it's a combined manner. So I really enjoyed a lot, sir.
What was your first contact point with hematology?
Sir, I would say till the last 3 to 4 months of my residency of my in JIPMER, I could not decide what subject I want to specialize in. But I used to take part in the hematology quiz that is conducted by the ISHBT India.
Yes.
So I in the first year itself I had taken part in that, but in that at the zonal level we could not qualify beyond that. In third year again I participated in that quiz. For that I did some dedicated study for the hematology section. So from that I got that interest. Like hematology is something which is developing day by day. All the new drugs, all the monoclonal antibodies, the CAR T cell therapy. So many things are upcoming in the last few years. So there is so much of development in hematology. So I thought that I'll have a great scope of learning and the scope for research also in the hematology department. That's how I was interested in. Got
How were
interest in
hematology
hematology.
cases managed at JIPMER? What was the pattern? How were they managed? Do you refer those patients to some other center, or do you have the setup to manage these patients in JIPMER itself?
Sir, actually, in JIPMER we don't have a separate hematology department. Like we used to see all the cases in our medicine department. We used to admit all the cases. So because in medicine department itself was like equipped with everything to manage all kind of hematology cases. So we are not referring any cases to anywhere. We used to manage all kinds of cases. Malignant cases will mostly we do the initial part of management, stabilization, diagnosis, all those part. Then we'll include the medical oncology part also. The rest, all the cases we also used to manage, sir, in the medicine department.
Oh, so that's awesome. So, like induction chemos, do you regularly give at JIPMER, like from medicine side itself, like the 7+3, or whether it be ALL, or do you actually give the regular initiation induction chemo in the medicine side itself?
Sir, actually, most of the times it is given by the medical oncology department, but sometimes some cases we have also managed that by giving induction chemo.
Wow, that's
and
great.
Complications also. Yes.
Complications also. So when we talk to students from different parts of the country, most of them during their PG times have really zero exposure on hematology and in hematology, and basically they themselves really don't know why induction is not being done in their colleges. So many of them feel that it's because of the cost issue, etc. Actually, most of these induction agents are cheap drugs. The fact is that if in case there is a neutropenic sepsis, we really don't have the armamentarium to actually handle that. So that's primarily the reason why it's not being done. And when they say that it's not being done in their center, we feel actually happy from inside, because in most of the average and below average centers, if you start going for induction, the only thing that is going to happen is patient is going to land with some neutropenia and sepsis, and we are not going to salvage the patient. So essentially, this is a subject that is so much center dependent. It is so much dependent on your setup. It is so much dependent on your team. So the options that a student has to do clinical hematology, take up clinical hematology as a career, is far and few in the country. There are only very few good centers, very, very few good centers. And there is no option for them. They have to go to these centers. And only if they study in these centers, they get hands-on exposure, especially with respect to BMT. And BMT is essentially what is the biggest weapon of the hematologist. And hematologist is the person who is at the center point of the BMT. So I think that way, when you choose a subject like this, it's very risky in the sense because one, there are only few options to get into the subject. Second, if you get into hematology, it has to be at the best center. And then when you come back also, you really have to do it in a great center because it's so much center dependent. And there is nothing called individual there is nothing called OP practice, there is nothing called, those things are absolutely not relevant here. It's all about having the center, and it's all about aggressively managing. As the great hematologists themselves say, you have only one chance to treat the patient in hematology. It's not like you get these chances again and again, and that is induction. And how much well you induce and how effectively you induce and what depth of remission that you achieve in the shortest period possible will eventually determine the prognosis. And if that is not done properly, there is no second chance. And many times what we see in our country is patients do go into remission in most of these diseases, but in due course they will relapse. And relapses are generally associated with dismal prognosis in hematology, whatever be the disease. And then obviously the options in front of the hematologist are far and few. And there are so many such things with respect to the subject, which makes it very unique and very different from the so-called stereotype medical subject. So that's what is actually very special. My next question to you is, when you actually thought about this, that hematology is an option, what is the general feedback that you got from your colleagues, seniors, juniors? What was the feel, or what is the general feedback among students about choosing this as a career option? I have not seen so many people thinking seriously about taking hematology as a career option. What was the talk going around, especially in JIPMER, etc., about this?
So, like one of the good thing about me is I don't seek advice much.
Okay, that's great.
What to do, what to not. Whatever I feel like I should do, and this is the right way for me. This is something like when I choose Meadow, because that time nobody knew what is Meadow, and so that time also I did not listen to anyone. So that time I took up because I believed in it. This is something like that. So I have not asked many people, but whoever I asked, they used to tell like it's definitely upcoming field, but again there is it is little bit away from the core medicine, and you will have the lab component also. But all those things are fine for me, so I just persisted with it.
That's great. So, what is your study pattern? Like, if a final year MD student is coming and asking you 6 months to go for the exam, and 1 year to maybe go for the 6 months to go for the next NEET exam, that's 2022 NEET exam, and INIX is also coming up. What would be your piece of advice? Somebody is interested in hematology, so they're just planning to start de novo. How will you just tell them what's the way to go about this?
Sir, I would say first of all to be very good in the medicine, the core medicine part, before going into the hematology. Okay. So I think this should be applicable for all the specialty, because now I think from the next year NEET will be like full of medicine only. And previously in the AIMS they used to ask only from the specialty, but this time I think it's 50-50. So 50% from medicine, 50% from hematology. Yeah. And that is also something I think which helped me a lot, because I was reading core medicine for my final exam. Yeah. So that should be the first advice, to be very good in the medicine.
Okay.
And the next thing is for the specialty topic, like I can tell about the hematology. For hematology, I have not read any specialty textbook. So I have just read Harrison multiple times. And other thing is like I used to, from the beginning, I used to watch the Meadow videos, of course. So that is something which was there in my mind during my PG preparation also, when I got my rank 1 also, that this is actually enough for like good enough for medicine. It's a very good partner with the Harrison. Along with Harrison, I can actually, along with these videos, I can actually read the Harrison easily, and I can cover most of the Harrison. So when I joined my MD, that time also it was in my mind that at some point of time I'll take up again the Meadow, the PG preparation videos again, and I'll start it again. So in my third year, when I got time, so that time I again subscribed for the Meadow Plan C, and I used to see your videos every time. So that is something which, like, it was my strategy in the beginning also, my PG preparation days also, to see your videos, only to see your videos. Don't think much, or don't I did not concentrate much, because I was already familiar with you, with your style of teaching, and the contents also I was very familiar with it. So again I started watching those videos. I have never looked into those notes. I have never tried to take on notes also. So in total I can say I have seen your videos, I think some 15 times total, everything.
That's awesome.
So after that I became very confident.
See, I also actually keep repeating this. Now, the end of hematology class, you should not ask us to why this is so, why that is so. It is like this. We also know only this much, and there are still so many things for us to learn. There are so many things hematologists themselves don't know. So you should not be asking any such questions. Okay, this is how we feel this disease is at this point in time. We will be keeping on changing. We'll be keeping on changing. So that really is something which is not in our hands. Which means every disease you talk next time will be actually completely new. The way we look at the disease will be new. The way we talk about the disease will be new. The new parameters are going to be different. The way we assess the patient is going to be different. So radical things keep coming up. And how it actually perfectly fits into and all, it's very difficult to answer. So whatever we know, that much only we know. That's why I like when somebody asks me a question in nephrology, we can actually keep going on discussing. There is lots and lots to discuss. But here, if you ask me about venetoclax, or you ask me about ibrutinib, etc., I myself, hematologists themselves know only little. I know only very little. So that very little is what we are trying to communicate. So if you ask me more and more in detail about these things, actually we don't know. Hematology is that one subject where we can very happily admit that we know only this much. Okay, that may be that is, I think, more than enough for the exam, because in reality also, the world across also, the knowledge is very limited, and maybe, as you said, is an evolving subject. So day by day, it may actually change. Now, for students who are actually, there's some kind of a confusion some of these students have. Do we need to have very solid, as a hematologist, you need to have solid pathology understanding. But to crack the entrance, how much of pathology do we need to know?
I think for hematology, sir, you should also be good in the pathology, the slides, because these two things are combined actually. This is clinical and pathological. So for hematology, at least you have to be very good in pathology, sir.
So how did you study your pathology? How was your preparation? For
no, sir, I have not studied separately, sir. Whatever.
You not studied?
No, sir, I have not studied separately. I have not studied the Robbins again. Whatever is there in the, like whatever you have taught or whatever is coming in between, I used to check in the Google for some of the images. I think that was enough. And one more thing is, sir, so in the INA-SS, I felt, sir, the questions are mostly conceptual questions. Factual questions are very, very less. So most of the times they have asked what would be the next best step, and they'll give you a clinical scenario and what will be your judgment, and so those kind of questions. So I don't think reading many factual things will help in INA exams.
So when you actually sat for your INA-SS exam, what did you feel as the core in hematology? Like, what are the 5 topics, if I'm asking you, that you have to study in depth in toto and go? From where the bulk of the questions? How many questions were on BMT, and from where were the bulk of clinical hematology questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, first thing is the leukemias. In the leukemia, acute leukemia more than chronic leukemias. So there are more questions on ALL and AML. And also there are questions on CML and CLL.
Okay.
And mostly they are focused on the prognostic marker, like the prognostic factors, and the treatment, the drugs and the prognostic factors. Those are the main area. And the new drugs, and if anything is there, they are just simple questions. They will give a image, they will put the arrow mark. This is the mechanism of action. What is the drug, like that. Next thing is they have asked on the MDS. They have asked, I think, some 2 or 3 questions they have asked on MDS.
Okay.
And one more thing is the drugs and the side effects.
Okay.
So the new drugs, the side effects, or the common side effects, their management. So those kind of stuff they have asked. Then they have asked on aplastic anemia also they have asked from the anemia section, some 3 questions I think were from aplastic anemia.
Aplastic anemia itself, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So from a medicine angle, like most of the students who have done their MD in medicine, what they find most difficult is the pediatric side of hematology, especially sickle cell anemia and thalassemia and stuff, and of course BMT, which is completely new to most of the students. So what kind of representation did pediatric hematology have? What kind of representation did BMT have?
Sir, from the BMT section, they are asking mostly the complications. So those complications are like most of the things are covered in medicine. Actually, it was like combination. You can't really tell whether the question is from medicine or from hematology. So they have asked a combined question. Like many of the questions are like this. So they'll ask about the graft versus host disease. They'll ask about the opportunistic infections. So from the BMT section, it was like it is something like medicine and infectious disease, something like that. So critical care and all. From thalassemia and sickle cell also they won't ask not very high-fi questions. I think some new drugs they can ask, and I think there is not much in-depth question on sickle cell or thalassemia, sir. So that can be easily done, sir. Yes.
Like your preparation for the quiz, how much did it actually help you in your preparation for this exam, or do you feel like both are actually complementing each other?
Yes, sir. It was actually complimentary because my quiz was, I think, some 1 month before my final exam.
Okay.
So for my quiz, I used to, I have read a lot of hematology. I have watched the videos. I have seen, I have read the Harrison, and I have seen some of the tables and images from Hofbrand postgraduate hematology textbook. Apart from that, I have not done anything, and I have read some of the latest thing, the newer drugs. I just used to type in the Google what are the newer drugs in hematology. So those newer drugs I have seen, I have read, and yes, that much mostly these things covered for my quiz. And after my quiz, I have not read hematology for 1 month. I have not read hematology because I have to read the other subject.
University exam. No, that is what generally generally what most people discuss is like Hofbrand's textbook of hematology is more or less like a must read. That is the news that generally goes around, but there are no absolute rules or anything like that. But most of the people actually do read Hofbrand's postgraduate textbook of clinical hematology. And then, of course, Niels Young has written a book on Bethesda Handbook of Clinical Hematology. That's also a very popular book among students. It's a very practical guide. So these are the books that many of the people follow. So I guess you have not followed any standard rules. So you have just like gone the way you feel is actually good for you. That's it. Now again, this question about how important it is to make notes and revise. Do you feel it's mandatory, or like what is your opinion on that? Do we really have to write down everything and then revise that?
Yes, sir. This is actually yes, sir. This is a question that like many of many of the students are also asking me, how is it possible to just see video and remember? So that as I said, sir, I have seen 15 times like your videos 15 times. So if you see something 15 times, definitely it is going to be there in your mind. And
when you see subsequently, do you watch very quickly, or you just like
yes,
watch
sir, very quickly, sir, very quickly. When the previously it was only, I think, only 2x speed was available. Then I think 3x speed was available. After that, I became more happy because I can revise it faster. So it was I when I was seeing the videos repeatedly, that time I don't concentrate much. I don't force myself much. Okay, this I have to remember. This I have to remember. I have never done like that. Just for fun, I used to watch the video. So if you do like that, it will become very easy. And you have to be persistent with that. You cannot just you'll plan 1 week, you'll see the videos. Next week you'll feel no, this is not working. I have to make notes. So those things will not going to work. So you have to be persistent with whatever you are doing. And after watching the videos, if I feel that okay, this is something which I'm not able to remember, even after watching the videos many times, only those points I used to note down somewhere. Okay, these points I have to read again or something. And whenever I used to watch the videos next time, I try to predict, okay, this is the next topic that he is going to teach. This is the next line he is going to tell. So like that, I trained my mind in that way so that I can learn faster.
Okay. And hematology is that one subject where I think you will have the thirst to learn more and more, because it's so dynamic a science that you will want to understand more and more, because in the initial part of it, you will not understand anything. It will be like a complete zero. So from zero, when you start, you will want to actually learn more. That kind of feeling will be definitely there. Now, that is also a very important question. Like you represent Orissa, and now from Orissa, you have actually come to this point. What would be like if you see a final year student or an intern in your college, Berhampur, or any other college? What will you actually tell them? Like, is it simple, or is it like a very complicated process, or is it doable kind of thing? What will be your piece of advice?
Yes, sir. So before that, I just like to mention that like whatever I have been doing, or however the way I am preparing it is quite different from others. That I also know that it's very much different. And this I actually learned from you. Like before you, whatever I have been listen to my seniors. Okay, this is the way to how to prepare. This is the way how they teach. These are the notes. Like this you have to read. But when I started watching your videos, it was very different. And I think some 100 times you have told that medicine is not straightforward. So it is never like one by one. You have to combine everything. It has to be very haphazard. So this kind of teaching, I think only you brought it to to our field. This is the way that medicine can be taught, and this is something different. You have done something different, which made a great impact on us. So that's why you have been inspirational for me. So from you, actually, I have learned that okay, I can also do something different and make my own path. And I think this has to be my advice for the juniors, that you need not blindly believe others. You need not always follow the conventional path. You have to find out your own path. You have to believe in your teachers, and you have to work hard. I think this should be enough. And if you do this from a state college, also from a college with a lesser exposure or lesser practice, still you can come to the Apex Institute of India. If I can do this, I know everyone can do this.
I think this is a huge source of inspiration, motivation, whatever you want, you can actually call it. I don't think it gets better than this, because you have actually understood this very essence that, as you said, there is no absolute right and wrong in this. This is not like studying history in ninth standard, because history means that king was there, he did so many things, that king is also gone, everything is gone, that empire is also not there. So that's done and dusted kind of stuff. But here, this is not like that. What we study today will be proven wrong tomorrow. What we study right will be wrong, and wrong will be right. There are so many permutation combinations possible. You take a single disease in hematology and you see the way it is being managed in 5 centers. It will be 5 ways. Okay, they'll be having their own regimes. They'll be actually chipping and chopping and changing. They'll be having their own experience-based differences. So, and in per se, the treatment itself is actually evolving and evolving. And I guess you have actually got it spot on. And I think if you follow this, I think you can really make a lot of difference. And I think hematology is a subject where you can actually make a lot of difference in the life of people over here. Because still, if we actually look at the 5-year survival rates of most of these malignancies, they're not actually great. So because of which, I guess there is lots for you to actually do. And I think going back to your state after the course, probably you can even make a lot of difference. And this is a wonderful choice. I was never thinking that you are actually going in the line of hematology, because I didn't know that. We used to talk over WhatsApp, etc., but I never asked you what is your choice, because I was thinking you are in final year, so you'll be taking more time. So, and this is actually speaking such a terrific choice. And I really want to actually ask you this one final question. This one final question, which many people have asked me, so again I'm asking you this. The student who is in his final year MD course, most of the time we see is like so stressed out about his exam, this final year exam. He's so much afraid whether he will pass or fail, and every day he's having this stress. Every time between them, when they sit for a cup of coffee, this is the discussion. What will be the pass percentage? Will I pass? Will you fail? HOD likes me, HOD doesn't like you, etc. kind of stuff. How important it is to think about this in final year? Is it more important to enjoy your final year and then like see what happens, or just to be so much perturbed about this pass fail that you don't study anything properly?
Yes, sir. But yes, sir, this is actually very common. Even in our final year, when I started final year, also we used to discuss all these things. So I think this is something which is going to stay with us every time. This definitely there will be stress, there will be some pressure. So we have to take it in a positive way that our life is like that, and we have to be familiar with all these stuffs. And then how I made up my mind is I used to think that these things about the results, pass or fail, those things are not in my hand. So I used to keep small goals. By this time I should read this much. Whatever may happen, I will just read this much. Then I used to take one more step. Okay, by this time I will finish this much. So if you keep small goals and if you just go do your work, then you can overcome these difficulties also.
Okay. And right now, being in the midst of COVID, this question, because you entered into your course in 2019. So the first 15 months of your course, when you had to do all the hard work, there was no COVID. And then suddenly when you went into the second half of your course, which is more easier part, then suddenly COVID came in, and the second and third part of your course was more or less immersed inside COVID. So how was it learning with COVID? Or as a person who has done the clean part of his post-graduation during COVID, what do you feel about that?
Sir, this thing also I have taken in a positive way, sir. Actually, because very few people, very few doctors will get this opportunity during their postgraduate time to learn how a hospital or how a government is managing a pandemic.
Yes.
So exactly. This is something which is beyond like our course. And being in JIPMER, I actually saw, I was there, I saw how they made a separate COVID block, how they made various departments to work for a single disease or a group of patients. So how all these things are coordinated, how a separate block was made, and how the protocol has been made. So all these things, and how in few, very few months of time, how we develop the medicines or the vaccines. So all these things I learned, and this is something which I felt, which is something which is beyond the course, the regular course curriculum. So that also I've taken in a positive way. Okay, I have learned how a pandemic has been managed, and if next time, if I am in a superior position to take decisions, that time I can take, I can manage such pandemics also. I can take a major part in handling these situations. So and that is also a very good learning opportunity, because COVID is something which is not given in Harrison. It is not given in any of the standard textbooks.
Very good.
So this is something which we learned new, completely new, but we learned so many things in a very small span of time. So
That's it.
so it was never a problem for me, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think many times in class also, I just keep telling this, like when you have a patient with CKD, even if you don't call me and don't refer to me also, I'm perfectly okay with that. But when you do come across any case of leukemia, lymphoma or myeloma, please don't think about anything else. You just take the phone, you call me. We'll actually try to help you out in the best possible fashion with my seniors. And special mention to Kishore sir, as I told you, has done these hematology sessions and is actually the transplant physician at Miyot Hospitals in Chennai. He's one person whom we actually look up to in a big way, and some one person whom I ask everything in the world about and everything in hematology about. And I think he's helped me a lot to understand this subject. And I tell you, this subject is not a straightforward subject. This subject is a very different subject. It is not a routine medical subject. It is not the inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation kind of subject. It's a completely different subject. And I feel, I don't know whether it is actually like a medicine subject itself. That itself is a question mark. Because we don't study this like how we study a medical subject, right? Even if you take the big teachers from CMC, Vellore, or AIIMS, or even the teachers from Madras Medical College where I've attended my postings, they all start with morphology, then go to cytology, then immunophenotyping, cytogenetics, molecular genetics. It's so different, right? There is no subject like this. So that's why I'm telling you, it's a huge bliss to be able to study the subject. So make use of this, and I think this will be a great opportunity, once a lifetime opportunity, to actually be serving a huge section of the population who are in need of need of top hematologists. So that will be great, and we are really happy from our side, from the whole team side, that you have used the app to its complete effectiveness. That means through the app you have cleared your post-graduation. Sorry, through the app you have actually got into a postgraduate seat, and that too JIPMER. From there you have actually managed to enter into AIIMS. I think this is going to be the biggest advertisement for Mara. I don't think there is any more advertisement required. So once again, fantastic talking with you, Ami, and all the best for all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much.